up, y'all? Welcome to my page, Music and Mental Health. My name is Mark. If you don't already know, I want to ask you to please do me a favor if you have not done so already. Please like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit the notification bell so that you can get notified when I drop some fire content. So I'm really excited to introduce this interview with Nia Moore of The Real World Portland. She's also done 3 seasons of MTV The Challenge. I guess technically maybe 2 seasons of MTV's Challenge and 1 season of the Paramount Plus version Challenge All-Stars. But I consider it all the same, 3 seasons. I've been a big fan of hers. When I first saw her on The Real World Portland, I had the biggest crush on her. I hopped on Cameo. I was looking for somebody to book for a cameo, and I saw her on there and I was like, this is a great person that I would love to get some questions in for. I specifically like seeing these people who have gone through things and come back, because that's what my life is all about. And I know that she's one of those people because she had controversy on her season of Real World Portland. And I actually remember on one of her challenge seasons, she got kicked off of the season right before the end. She was partners with Leroy. Right before the finals, she got kicked off for a physical altercation with Jordan. So I was really excited to get her and ask her some questions. Now, the cameo almost expired, so I thought that I wasn't even going to get it from her. And then I see something in the wee hours of the morning right before it was due, and it was this long answer response from her, which I absolutely loved, and I'm excited, so excited to share with y'all. So the first question that I asked Miss Moore was it difficult for you to come back to the challenge after adversity? Of course, I already mentioned the adversity, which was that she had a physical altercation with Jordan, and you guys can look that up. She got kicked off of that particular season, and the Challenge All-Stars, which came around, she got back onto the challenge with Jordan, and they were even intimate on the season. So things kind of came full circle. But like I said, I like comeback stories of people who have gone through some things, been beat down. Maybe sometimes they did it to themselves, and then they came back up and had kind of a triumphant comeback story. That's what I consider her to have had. I loved her answers. I loved her answer to this question. It was pretty thorough. It included a lot of different things, and I love the rawness of it, because she was in bed when she answered this question. She said that she was in Paris partying, and she was just gonna speak off the top of her head. I like that, as y'all know, much better than rehearsed answers. So without further ado, here is her answer to this question.
Hi, Mark. Let me just say, this is about to be the realest cameo response that I've done to this date, because number one, I don't even know how to put a filter on this. I look like shit right now. I'm in France, so it is like 2 a.m. here, but I want to make this cameo before it expires, because I really appreciate how much and how often you guys request these. So I want to answer your questions, especially because it's for your YouTube page. But I hope that you forgive me for the fact that I look like crap right now. But yeah, I've been having a good time here, as you can see. Oh my gosh, this part is like crazy. So your first question, you said, was coming back to the challenge difficult after adversity? Yes, I had never thought that I was actually going to go back on the show. Namely because I didn't think I was going to be invited at all. I mean, it had been years since I was invited. And so when I was invited for All Stars, I was excited, intrigued by why, but I also was very fearful. And initially I told them, that I was not interested in doing it because I was afraid. I'm like, what's the catch? Like, why after all these years would they suddenly want me to come back to do the show? And initially I just wasn't really comfortable. And so I told them no. And then, they kind of just encouraged me to learn more about the show and, to give myself credit and grace for like the fact that I'm not the same person that I was the last time I did it, and that they weren't reaching out to me to set me up in any sort of way. And so that was something that I had to kind of figure out on my own. But also, I was what's the word? I don't want to say afraid. It's just that I had realized I'm at a place in my life where I really didn't think I was going to get called to do the show, nor did I care about the challenge. I hadn't watched it or seen it in, damn near 10 years. And so I felt like it was a chapter of my life that had already expired. And so I didn't know what could come about of it if I opened that can of worms again. And so, I guess maybe it was rooted in fear or paranoia. But then I talked to Jordan, and knowing that he was going to be there was essentially, I'll be honest, like it was like the only reason I decided to do All Stars 3. I felt like if he's going to be there, then, he was kind of like my security blanket, where I felt safe enough to go into that environment again, knowing that someone who's truly my friend, someone who I truly love and I know loves me back, is going. And he is amazing at the challenge. So I'm like, he's going to more than likely win it, if not be there to the very end. So as long as I'm there, he'll be there. And so I was willing to do the show. But at the same time, it was a struggle for me regardless, because I have a career now that I care deeply about, a reputation, a professional one that I care deeply about. So I had to really, make sure that I was comfortable with going back into the show, because you don't know what the consequences are of filming. So like, even though I know that I am a mature woman and like I know how to handle myself in certain environments, you don't know what you're signing up for. You are always going to be powerless against the behaviors and the elements of other people and other things. And so I had to roll the dice on that, because I hadn't done the show in 10 years. And I was like, well, shit. I think that I'm mature enough to handle myself in a way that I would be proud of and that would not compromise my professional reputation. But at the same time, it's still a fucking TV show. Like, shit can happen, and just like on The Real World, before I left my parents' home and went to go film The Real World, I had promised them that I was going to represent myself the way I had been raised to be as a person. And then I still went on there and things happened, and I did things that were not, a reflection of how I was raised. So it was just a risky move for me to go back and do the challenge this time. But I feel really good. I feel good about the fact that even in moments of high anxiety, I dealt with seasonal depression before I even went on the show. I was kind of depressed when I was on the show. A lot of anxiety. I was vaping heavily while I was there, dealing with a lot of things, because I really realized that I hadn't developed my why, like why I was there. Everybody else had a reason why they were there, and it motivated them to like finish the challenge and do the challenge and give it their all. And I realized, and I was almost embarrassed, that I had not developed a why, other than the fact that Jordan was going to be there and I needed him. I felt like I needed him to influence me being there in a positive way. I had not any sense of self-worth inside the game for me established, which is kind of sad, but it's just the truth of the matter, until he left. And then that started to click for me. And if I ever do the show again, I'll be damned if I don't go into it with a reason that is just for me and by me. I will not be reliant on someone else's existence or approval to play that game again. I just rather not go. But yeah.
So for my second question, I always have to throw a mental health question in there for myself personally and for my page. And my question for her was basically how she managed her mental health both on the show and in her personal life. And again, I loved the answer that she gave. She talked about therapy. She talked about being able to break down your different issues and work with somebody towards getting through them. I love the fact that she was willing to say that, because still, especially in the Black community, something like therapy is very stigmatized. So you tell somebody that you're going to therapy and they're like, wow, this person is messed up or they have issues. When really, it's like the person that I'm able to present to y'all is because of this self-work that I was willing to do on myself. If I was just going through life pretending like I didn't have any issues and not working and addressing them, I would be the typical type of person that you see out in the world causing chaos. So I specifically appreciated that part of her answer. I appreciated the entire answer, which you guys will see, but I like how she started out with that.
And to answer your other question, you said, how have you best managed mental health on TV shows in real life? Therapy. I'm a big advocate of going to therapy. I feel like it is one of those things that has absolutely saved my life. It made me a change for the better and a better person. I tried to heal on my own for years, after the real world, after the challenge. And then I finally realized that I'm not supposed to bandage these wounds, these internal wounds by myself, that, I have access to help and to people who have a better understanding and just can observe my trauma and my issues and things that I need to heal from a different perspective, because it doesn't involve them. And I think that therapy is something that all people should take advantage of. And, I had made every excuse to not get into it in the very beginning. Like, I was like, oh, I don't have health insurance, or, oh, it's expensive, or, oh, how mundane is it going to be to try to find someone that understands me and that, gets what type of person I am and can actually realistically give me help. And I made every excuse to avoid therapy for the longest. And then eventually I surrendered to it because I kept trying to just fix my shit my way, and I was failing miserably. And so, yeah, I would say therapy has been the biggest thing. And then also just giving yourself grace. I think human beings, we are just creatures of condemnation, and we constantly punish ourselves for not being perfect, for being human. And I just think we have got to stop doing that, because we are imperfect and we're always going to be imperfect. And so I would say giving yourself grace is I'm the biggest advocate for that, in life in general. And when I say grace, I don't mean it's an excuse to be a shitty person. No, I mean when you make mistakes, honest mistakes, decent mistakes, because you're going to do that inevitably, you still have to forgive yourself and pardon yourself, and also remember that hey, we are never going to be the agents of perfection as human beings. That's just not part of our reality and our existence. It's insane to try and pursue that. And so, yeah, I'm just big on that, on grace.
The last question that I asked her was, as a Black woman, has she had to dim her shine to get by in those challenge MTV type of environments? And I asked that question because I know that I've heard a lot of Black women on various shows. Dave Vaughn, most recently Taylor Hale, Ayanna, who I interviewed last year. I've heard several Black women, especially on these reality TV competition shows, talking about how it's been hard for them to just be themselves because they're always characterized and looked at a certain way for being who they are, for expressing emotions, you know, for no particular reason at all. So I was very interested to hear her answers, and I appreciated her kind of saying, back in the day, I kind of did feel that way sometimes, and I kind of did do that, but I've gotten to the point where now in my life, the point of my life that I'm in right now, I'm just gonna be who I am, take it or leave it, and whoever is for me, and whoever is not. I kind of feel that same way too for myself as a black man, where at one time I was like, I'm not gonna show out, I'm not gonna act certain ways, I'm not gonna express myself certain ways. To an extent, in my world, in my environment, I still have to be a little bit of a tempered version of who I want to be, to an extent, but it's becoming much less, and I'm tending not to care also. Whatever is meant for me is also meant for me. So I appreciated this answer as well.
Dim your shine to get by in those environments. That's a good question. I've always felt there was many points in my life where I felt pressure to dim my light, and sometimes I did, sometimes I don't, but more times than not at this point in my life, I've learned how to play the game, number one, but also I don't stay in rooms that require me or that pressure me to dim my light for long. The minute I feel that, I sense that, I now at 33 do not ignore that feeling. I do not ignore my gut. I surrender to it, and I understand that everybody is not going to like me. Even if I was the most perfect person in the world, and like I can get along with a wall, you know? It's like, but people are still not going to like me. I walked into the challenge house in All Stars 3, and it was very obvious there were people who were just like being nice to me because they were afraid of me, or they thought I was a threat in the game, or they thought I might, like, it was easier to be nice to me. And there were people who were genuinely like wanting to connect with me. And the people that weren't, like, yeah, there was those signs of like them trying to, like, you know, make me feel like, oh, she's always around. Like, there was little certain things that were said, like, oh, she always hangs out with the guys. Yeah, I do, because I get along with men. Most women in that house felt uncomfortable or unnatural, uneasy around the guys in the house, and I just didn't. Like, I can get along with men and women, but like there were times in that situation where I felt like I was being pressured to hang out more with the girls because of how they felt uncomfortable with me hanging out with the guys a lot. I don't know. That's a whole nother story, but and it wasn't like a big thing. It was just like a thing that made me feel pressured to, like, oh, let me not hang out with the guys as much because we're also playing a game for money. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know how to be anything other than myself. So I was kind of conflicted with that a lot of times in the house. And it formed anxiety that I didn't even deserve, because I was going out of my way to genuinely get to know every single person in the house, whether it was male, female, whatever. But that bug was put in my ear, and it made me want to dim my light to not make other women feel uncomfortable, or that I was trying to, like, I don't know, because whatever. I mean, whatever it was assumed that I was doing, I wasn't. And I think that part is like the most frustrating thing. But anywho, I hope this Cameo answers all of your questions. I love you, Mark. I thank you for even just wanting to talk to me, because I'm really not that cool, but I love you, and thank you again for this Cameo. And I'm sorry that it took me so long, but I am currently in France, and it is like 2 a.m. here, I think. And as you can tell, I've had a couple margaritas, so I'm going to go to bed now. But I love you, and I wish you well. And you can always send me a message, send me a shout, say hello if you have any other questions. Okay.
Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought of this interview. I thought it was great. I loved her answers. I booked some of these cameos, right? And I'm so excited for them. And then 45 seconds and they're finished. And I'm like, what is this? You just kind of woke up and threw your camera on. Let's get this job done. So this is the longest one I've ever gotten. You could probably put all the other ones I've gotten together combined, and it wouldn't be as long as this one. So I highly appreciate Nia for taking all that time to do this for me. Shoot, man, I'm a fan. So I was excited to see this in addition to being excited to put it on my page. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm putting up this content because I appreciate all of you guys. I value you. I take all your feedback, good, bad, and otherwise. And I love having this channel. I love making content for this channel. Tell a friend, bring a friend. I'll see you next time.